everybody, how's it going? Today, let's take a detailed look at this beautiful 1993 Nissan 300ZX twin turbo. And this is going to be a detailed, in-depth review of the 300ZX. We'll start it up, show the engine, get an exhaust clip and cover the performance data, as well as take it on a brief test drive, and show you a bunch of the unique aspects of the interior, as well as exterior. And so, without further ado, let's go and start her up, let her run. Another really cool thing that came with your 300ZX was a bespoke titanium key. Definitely neat. The exterior color is known as Platinum Metallic, featuring an all-black leather interior with suede accenting across the lower portion of the dash, as well as the door panels. Beautiful sound from that twin turbo V6. The 300ZX features electronically controlled, speed-proportional rack and pinion power steering, while turbo models also receive an innovative four-wheel steering system known as Super HICAS, or High Capacity Active Controlled Steering. I'll refer to it as HICAS for the rest of the video. But briefly, it puts an emphasis on increased cornering agility rather than just parking or navigating tight areas. We'll delve into the mechanics though shortly. As far as the steering wheel itself, it's a thick bolstered leather-wrapped 4-spoke wheel that yields great visibility of the instruments, as well as convenient access to the control pods on either side of the cluster, not to mention horn buttons towards the edge of the middle spoke. Putting the power to the ground for both standard and turbo models is a close ratio of 5-speed overdrive manual gearbox with leather-wrapped shifter, as well as a viscous limited slip differential, while a 4-speed auto with traditional torque converter was also available. Also standard on the turbo are 2-mode driver-adjustable shock absorbers for more relaxed or taut suspension by the simple flip of the switch in the center console. So let's go and flip on the headlamps, fog lamps, as well as the hazards. The driver's side window is automatic down. So let's go check the exterior, shall we? The 1990s represented somewhat of a rebirth of the affordable sports car, although in a slightly different way than your typical Camaro or Mustang. With the influx of an all-new wave of sports cars from Japan, it made for an interesting time of high horsepower, highly engineered, highly capable cars that almost anyone could afford. The Nissan Z series has always represented those key details that make a car in this category successful. It's no wonder then why the Z remains one of the most popular cars in the segment today, with over 2 million units sold worldwide. In the US, the Z has always had a signature number designation that typically hinted towards engine displacement, while in Japan it was simply known as the Fairlady Z regardless of the year. When the original design plans began in the late 1960s, the goal was to produce a car that would not only look good, but be innovative, fast, reliable, and relatively inexpensive to fix compared to steep European competition. Over the years, the original Datsun Z underwent many changes in performance, styling, and practicality to mold it into a well-equipped GT car with a balance between luxury and sport. The third generation Z31Z, now known as the 300ZX for 1984, really began to take the lineup to the next level with more turbo applications, an all-new engine, special editions, and better interiors. The Datsun name would then be dropped for 1985 to pave the way for future Z cars to be produced exclusively under the Nissan nameplate. The fourth generation 300ZX, internally known as the Z32, was originally introduced as an all-new model for 1990 to replace the aging Z31. It not only represented an all-new look, but it also debuted many innovations in performance, handling, and refinement. While great, it did come at an increased cost. For example, in 1993, this turbo had an MSRP price of just under $40,000. But what really set it apart though was its engineering. The car was essentially all new, with only the core engine continuing from the Z31. Of course, updated and tweaked for modern times, with a hefty dose of increased performance thanks to an all-new twin-turbo design. The car has a wider stance, it's sleeker, and more smooth than the Z31, with unique styling cues for turbo models. It includes a body-colored front air dam and integrated rear spoiler. Turbo models were also the first to debut the innovative high-cast four-wheel steering system as I touched on earlier. It uses speed and steering angle sensors to send data to an electronic control unit, which then powers a hydraulic actuator mounted to the rear multi-link suspension. While later changed to an electronic actuator after 1994, high-cast allows for up to 10 degrees of rear wheel turn in either direction. It determines the speed and angle of the corner you're approaching. With quick steering maneuvers, the rear wheels steer in counter phase, opposite the front wheels before returning in phase. This allows for the front end of the car to be pointed more into the curve, in the direction that you want the car to go, without taking extra skill from the driver. As the wheels are returning in phase, a slip angle is developed as the rear wheels gain traction to help launch you as you exit the apex of a curve. The Z also features a standard viscous limited slip differential. It functions to transfer the vehicle's torque to whichever rear wheel that has the greatest traction. In other words, while cornering, it transfers more power to the more heavily loaded outside tire. The all-new 300ZX was also one of the first cars to be engineered using computer-aided design or CAD software. What this allowed was for the engineers to precisely design all the elements of the car from the body to the structure and even the interior before manufacturing began. The all-steel body features monocoque construction for a safe, isolated passenger compartment. Compared to the Z31, the new car's wheelbase is 4.7 inches longer, while overall length decreases by about 3.5 inches. Everything from the 60-degree angle of the projector headlamps were designed to increase the ability to slip through the wind with a coefficient of drag of just 0.31. Also, just as in Z tradition, the new car was also available in both 2-seat and 2+2 configurations with T-tops as your only roof choice. The T-tops were later left as an option, while the convertible was introduced for the first time in 1993. Wheels for the 300ZX consist of standard 16-inch 5-spoke painted aluminum alloys. While all four wheels are an identical 7.5 inches wide on standard cars, turbo models feature wider 8.5-inch rear wheels for better traction and stability with that extra dose of power. They're wrapped in high-performance, low-profile tires measuring 225/50 up front and 245/45 in the rear, and are able to pull up to 0.86 G in lateral cornering forces on the skid pad. The wheels were actually cast in a way that they actually pull in air from the front portion of the wheel and pass air out the back portion of the wheel, helping increase the ventilation and cooling of the brakes in higher demand scenarios. Regarding the brakes, all models of the Z share the same brakes, consisting of 4-wheel ventilated discs measuring 11 inches in front with 4-piston Nissan labeled calipers and 11.7 inches in the rear with 2-piston calipers. With this setup, it brings the 300ZX to a stop from 60 miles an hour in a short 116 feet. As far as the suspension, it was a pioneer in suspension development and engineering, featuring a fully independent multi-link suspension both front and rear. Consisted of upper links, lower A-arms, coil springs, and hydraulic shock absorbers with front and rear anti-roll bars. Turbo models also featured a 2-mode driver-adjustable damper system for more planted taut suspension if desired. Overall length is 169.5 inches with a wheelbase of 96.5 inches. Width is 70.5 inches, height 49.4 inches, and a total curb weight, depending on how equipped, of around 3,474 pounds. So we're going to pop the hood. When the 4th generation Z32 debuted for 1990, the 3-liter V6 found in the previous Z31 featured a host of upgrades while bore and stroke remained the same. It now featured a redesigned iron block with aluminum heads, new crankshaft and connecting rods, double overhead camshafts with 4 valves per cylinder, centrally locating spark plugs, new intake and exhaust manifolds, and variable valve timing, otherwise known as NVCS, or Nissan Valve Timing Control System. NVCS was designed to combat off-the-line acceleration loss with engines featuring 4 valves per cylinder that are designed for more top-end power. By retarding the intake camshafts via pressure-activated helical gear in the drivetrain, ideal valve timing and overlap are then maintained more consistently through the power band, creating more sustained, evenly distributed power delivery. The biggest news was for the turbo models, which now featured twin Garrett turbochargers and twin intercoolers, replacing the single turbo of the Z31. By having 2 smaller turbos rather than 1 large turbo, it also reduces the lag time it takes for boost pressure to build, creating much improved off-the-line acceleration. Turbo cars equipped with a manual transmission produce 300 horsepower at 6,400 RPM and 283 pound-feet of torque at 3,600 RPM. That's a whopping increase of 78 horsepower and 85 pound-feet of torque more over the naturally aspirated 300ZX. This translates to 0 to 60 times of 6.7 seconds and quarter-mile times around 15 seconds at 93 miles an hour and a top speed limited to 155 miles an hour. As far as fuel economy, with a 19-gallon tank and premium fuel, expect a range of 18 city and 24 miles to a gallon on the highway. Unlike many cars produced in the 90s, the 300ZX is an awesome example of attention to detail. Nearly every square inch was carefully and thoughtfully designed to provide the best ergonomics and ease of reach with most essential controls. The doors are of unique shape and actually share a detached portion of the B-pillar that houses your 3-point seat belts. The majority of the interior features soft-touch material, as well as premium suede microfiber across the lower portion of the doors, dash, and console for a warm, cozying sensation. As the doors sweep up to meet the dash, your power windows and handle are also in easy reach, while the dual electric heated mirrors are located in the center console. As far as the seating, the position was designed and taken into consideration the driver's hip point. By locating the H-point as close to the middle of the car as possible, it gives the driver more sensation and awareness to yaw and pitch during cornering for an engaged experience. Nissan actually said that they considered over 1,000 seat designs before settling on the production form. These excellent sport buckets come standard as cloth, but can be wrapped in soft premium leather, as well as set-and-way power adjustment, including lumbar and side bolstering adjustment. They provide a good balance of padding and lateral support, so they're comfy while still being supportive. Now, like I said, the vehicle can be had in either 2-seat or 2+2 configuration if you're going to haul a couple of smaller people in the back. You do have diminished cargo space with a 2+2 configuration, which I'll show a little bit later, but overall, in 2-seat configuration you can just pull up the seat and have easy access to storage out back. In my opinion, I would definitely say that the Z has one of the better built, clean designs out of the JDM category during this time. Down below, optional logoed floor mats, as well as a close-up look at the suede and microfiber portion of the lower part of the dash, as well as the center console. You also have a little air vent right beneath the steering column that gives you a little bit of fresh air down towards your legs. The dash is also wrapped in soft-touch material, and all of your essential controls are located on either side of the speedometer cluster, nicely finished off with the vehicle's optional T-tops for a nice open-air experience.
So let's go ahead and see how she sounds.
So we're going to shut her up. All 300ZX models aside from the convertible featured a premium 4-speaker Bose audio system as standard. It's an interesting system in that each speaker has its own equalizer and amplifier, making modifications a challenge. As far as media options, cars also came standard with an AM/FM stereo with cassette deck, and an in-dash CD player was also available. This car has been tastefully upgraded in a few ways, but still has the original deck.
Overall, it's definitely a nice sounding audio system, especially for '93. Like I said, the A-pillars are all nicely wrapped in soft touch material, as is the T-top cover, so if you accidentally tap your head against the top, it won't be a hard surface. Your lock and unlock for it, as well as the sunshade that came with the vehicle. Padded visors, as well as a manually dimming rearview mirror. Up top, you have 2 individual reading lamps, as well as your main illumination as you go towards the back. As far as the center stack, it's all really quite clean, very simple. You have a digital clock located down below, a little bit of storage, and a spot where the factory radio would go. Simple adjustments for your rear vents up top. Follow the sloping console all the way down, and you'll find an ashtray, power outlet, and or a spot for a lighter, as well as the suede microfiber trim trailing all the way into the rear. Your power mirrors, like I touched on earlier, as well as your 2-mode adaptive dampers for sport as well as terrain modes. The center console is also padded, wrapped in leather. It features a good amount of storage space. In this unique attached stack to the right-hand side of the speedometer cluster, you have your electronic automatic climate control system, as well as your wipers, front and rear. Very simple to use. Your hazards are on top like you saw earlier. One-touch automatic, front defrost, economy, recycling, as well as your different zones here. Shows up in the electronic display and makes a little noise when you hit your selection. Fan speed, temperature adjustment, and then your wipers down below. And if you look to the left-hand side of the speedometer cluster, you have your rear defrost, cruise control activation, fog lamps and lighting like you saw earlier, as well as your interior lighting dimmer. It's also a very simple, easy to read instrumentation cluster. Fuel off to the right, tachometer, speedometer, and vehicle temperature. Your oil pressure down below the tachometer, and turbo pressure below the speedometer. Alrighty. So, let's go ahead and shut her down. And we'll check out the rest of the vehicle.
Thanks to its convenient hatch, the 300ZX two-seater has quite a good amount of storage space behind the seats. Just insert the key and go ahead and pop the trunk, and it reveals about 23.7 cubic feet to be exact, roughly the same as a Buick Roadmaster. Of course, if you opt for the 2 extra seats in the rear with 2+2 models, you have the extra passenger hauling ability, but you lose about half of the storage when all of the seats are occupied, yielding about 11.5 cubic feet of storage in all. Also, in the back is a cargo privacy cover, luggage straps, and your 2 rear Bose speakers. Of course, this one also features twin custom subwoofers with integrated enclosures.
The passenger seat is manual as standard. And thanks to the sloping dash, how it carries away from the passengers, the passenger space over here definitely feels nice and roomy. Plenty of room to stretch out, and not at all claustrophobic. The dash, continuing across the passenger side, is also padded, and the suede microfiber trim also covers the glove box, which is locking. Good amount of space, gradually opens.
The Nissan 300ZX is a prime example of how exciting the JDM market was for the 90s. With sleek, aerodynamic styling, plenty of performance and technological innovation, it's no wonder why this era of automotive design is fast becoming the next wave of future classics.
Well everyone, I hope you enjoyed the in-depth look at the 1993 Nissan 300ZX Twin Turbo. Be sure to stay tuned next time, there's a lot more where that came from. Take care everybody.